Hey, welcome everybody to the barbecue. Thank you for being able to be here on this beautiful Juneteenth night. For those who don't know, Juneteenth is the day of celebration where the last state, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, on June 19th, 1865, freed the last set of slaves, allowing the 13th Amendment to be written and then would eventually become ratified later on that year. And as a result, we want to be able to have the chance to talk, to bring the information, to talk the culture, and of course, weave it in with our rugby life. And we got an amazing group of rugby players and rugby influencers to be involved. I want to introduce you guys first, Phaidra Knight, USA Rugby rep, World Rugby Hall of Famer, and the founder of PSK Collective. We got Tosan Tutse-Tonwe, founder of Viral Rugby, and the head coach of TC William High School. Next, we got Koma Gandy Fischbein, naval officer, head coach for the All Navy Rugby team, and USA Rugby age grade coach as well. We got Akinola Raymond, Tik Tok superstar, as well as rugby journeyman coming out of Maryland. And last but absolutely not least, the crown couple of Black rugby, founders of HBCU Rugby, Kyle and Tiana Granby. Thank you guys all for being on. This is a momentous moment. Hopefully it's not going to be the last time that we have it. For fans and people who are going to be watching, obviously this is going to be a discussion, but it is not just between all of us. It is going to be, you guys are involved. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them into the link and we will address them at the end of the time and make sure that you are able to be part of this in the fullest of full ways. So without further ado, I want to get us started just right off, kicking it off. I think we just lost one, but okay, we're back. Oh, no, we lost someone definitely. Okay, but without further ado, I want to get us started. Just kicking off questions right out the gate. You know, for all of us, we have been a part of rugby for many years. Collectively, looks like it's almost about 50 years worth of rugby experience that's coming in here. But there's one thing that we always know when it comes to the culture, and we're talking about Black culture and rugby, is the intertwining of it. From a standpoint that is, from the standpoint of how do you intercede the two together? I want to get your opinions on this. I want to start off with Phaidra. You've had probably the most eclectic career of the bunch, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it first, and then we can go from there. I don't think your mic's on. You might be.
You're muted, Phaidra.
Gotcha. I couldn't your question. I couldn't hear you.
No problem. The question was, whenever it comes to culture, rugby has been so emphasized when it comes to culture in rugby. I think a lot of time when it comes to the American culture, the Black experience, the Black culture comes in as well. One thing that's always wondered is how do you intertwine that into the rugby culture itself?
I think, with R.O.O.T.S, it's the first time that we feel that we have that, right? And at least in the club scene. I know the collegiate with the HBCU Classic, you're building that for sure. But it starts to, let's take it back to Vegas a couple of years ago. I was hanging out with the R.O.O.T.S family, and it's just us. It's like taking a cross section of Black America and dropping it, out at Sam Boyd, right outside Sam Boyd Field. And so we create it. Everybody wants to be a part of it. people are intimidated that are not Black in a normal setting to come into that fold, right? But in rugby, because everybody's so comfortable, maybe there are people that are uncomfortable with it, but folks just gravitate to it. White folks, other people of other ethnicities. And so you ask, how do we do it? We just do it. We're ourselves. I know, and we don't hide that, right? We are very proud of that, and we don't segregate in the sense that we build our own, and if others want to come and be a part of that, we have open arms to that. And so and I think that's how the Black community is in general. You have some pockets that maybe aren't so inviting and friendly, but we want to be accepted. We want to be loved, and we want to be appreciated in the way that other people have been that are not people of color. And so it's just owning it. It's just owning it the way we do. Just put ourselves out there, and we're ourselves.
I love it. I want to hear from some of the other people coming in from it. What's your guys' opinion on this?
I think that I agree 100% with Phaidra. I believe that it is difficult to intertwine the two. It's been something that we've been trying to do over the years, even before I played rugby, trying to implement the culture. So what I feel is that the only way to do it is what we are doing now, which is R.O.O.T.S Rugby. And that is how we were able to actually incorporate our culture into the rugby community. Because for the most part, as my experience as a player, whenever trying to naturally, share my culture with the rugby community, we were either, shunned down or talked about or, judged by our actions, when it was just us being ourselves and, trying to share our Black culture within the rugby community.
I love it. Any other responses? Aki, to be honest, I want to be able to hear from you, especially considering your experience coming in from both seeing the pop culture side, social media wise, and not. Like, how do you feel, especially the natural interjection of culture into rugby itself?
What I see in the Black culture of rugby, especially for me, because I know everybody here personally in this chat, like Tosan was probably my first mentor as a person. I saw Kyle and Derek were scanning a Rugby Sevens tournament when I was like 18 years old. I saw Phaidra Knight on MTV Made. She actually made me play rugby because I saw her on a TV show called Made, and she made some girls already play. I know Koma from the Northeast. She talked to me a few times, gave me some wisdom and things like that. So that's the culture I know about rugby. Is like everybody who's been there gives wisdom to the younger culture coming in, and I've been blessed to have everybody in this chat, everybody in this group talk to me, give me advice, watch them play live, and give me hope and about what will happen in the rugby scene for minorities and other people coming in. So I think it's very special it's a very special feeling that I have just coming up through that. So I thank everybody here very much for your wisdom, your knowledge, and you guys stepping forward, coming in earlier than I came in. And I know a lot of more people will be appreciative as well. And I think that's what the culture should be, is for the new people coming in, we're giving them advice, we're giving them the knowledge, giving them the resources that they would need to progress. So I think that's what the culture should be. And I think that's what the culture is coming to be now.
No, I love that. So kind of wanted to, building off of that, and a lot of that we spoke of, it comes within the concept of mentorship. It sounds, where it's pulling the network, being able to come together well within that. This is something that kind of leads into where we go about coaching. One of the biggest aspects that are featured within rugby, it's very difficult to be able to run a team without having a center point to be able to be a part of. From your guys' perspective, and you guys have a lot of experience, whether running the team, coaching the team, or not, what is it that you feel is kind of missing in the process of not just bringing coaches in, but also bringing more and more Black coaches into the sport itself, being able to find this place? Koma, I kind of want to go with you on this one. You had the pleasure of having been first woman being able to coach All Navy, and that stands great as an accomplishment. Plus, what you've done with Connacht. So, if you can, please, can you give us a little idea of what some of maybe the issues and what can be some of the solutions for solving that issue?
Yeah, I think for coaching, some of it is access to opportunity, and some of it is if you can't see it, you can't be it. So let me take those apart. That coaching sometimes winds up being a bit of a closed network where perhaps you're not aware of certain opportunities or aware of certain roles until they're either filled, or you may not know that those roles are actually available to be filled. And then being able to make yourself competitive for those roles, and oftentimes it's time sensitive. If you don't know that it's out there, you don't know that there's an opportunity for you, then you may not be able to go after it in as timely a manner if you're not in those conversations, if you're not in those sort of networks where those opportunities show up. And, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Oftentimes, young folks look up to role models. It could be a senior member of a team that teaches you how to fix your pass. It could be an old boy or an old girl, but you don't see very many Black coaches. You don't see very many Black female coaches. So perhaps young people looking up to see where their rugby careers could take them don't necessarily think that that's for them because they don't have any role models that they can see, that they can emulate. And I think the more that we have conversations about increasing the opportunities available for female coaches, for Black female coaches, for folks who may not fit the close your eyes and picture a rugby coach and what do you usually think of, being able to facilitate those types of opportunities and proactively go out. Maybe there's a person who's on the verge of retiring and they're just going to drift off into the sunset, having a conversation, like proactively saying, have you ever thought of coaching? You may say, I don't know. No, let's give you the toolbox. Let's give you the access. Let's give you direction. Let's point you in a direction where you can build a career for yourself, whether it's part-time or full-time. But we have to be more proactive about it, but we also have to recognize that there's not very many of us out there, and proactively implement measures such as just reaching out to your communities, reaching out to young Black players who may have the aptitude for coaching, but for whatever reason, if they don't see people doing it, then they may not think it's for them. And it is indeed for them. And there's a lot of richness that you can give back to the game from hanging up the boots and putting on a whistle.
Oh, that's real. Tosan, I see you nodding heavily on this one. Again, this is a place that you have a lot of experience within. For you, what's your thoughts on this?
So I played my rugby in the DC area, the overwhelming majority of it. So I've been blessed to be in sort of a bubble in that sense. I've had a number of Black coaches that have had, whether either I've associated with or they've actually coached me or had influences on how I coached. And I've had that opportunity with Vince Granger, worked with Marcus Wood. So very familiar with how important it is to see people in those positions, but also can't take for granted that because of where I am, these are very, this isn't the experience of everybody when they are out in the rest of the country. I think one of the most important things that we have to talk about with coaching is there is the body of work and the body of knowledge that is coaching, and then there's the activity of coaching. A lot of rugby we're still very recreational. So a recreational coach has a different set of roles than somebody who is fitting a particular job description that has a higher level of accountability beyond participation, beyond simple administration and association and fun. So now, like coaching high school, the idea of taking on things like waivers, taking on things like making sure people have physicals, responsibility for maintaining rosters and reporting to an AD. These are all things that in other sports is very normal, but for rugby, because we are just coming into these areas, it's a bit new. Because mostly club, mostly recreational, mostly people that are kind of volunteering their time to put it together. But when you see somebody in a position where this is a job description, they are a coach. Now you start thinking about what the process is to become that. So important to see those people in those positions and sustain in those positions, succeed in those positions, and network together in those positions. Just like any other professional society where we talk about like the National Society of Black Engineers, we talk about Black journalists. All these people come together to make sure that we are sustaining our ecosystem and having a pipeline of our talent and our representation into those spaces.
No, I love it. And, it actually leads into something that I find very interesting, and it goes to how you are able to utilize rugby in a greater film. But before I go to that, I wonder, is there anybody else who'd like to put a point or have an opinion that goes along with that or might even counter it in any way? All right, awesome. So the next thing that what I was talking about in where it goes is how do you utilize the vehicle that becomes rugby as something that takes it from just being an on-field to off? We always know, obviously, we see the MLR and the professional rep mechanism coming through. But a lot of times I think it's very underestimated what happens from the off-field, the non-professional one. Obviously, you got places like Life who have created numerous amounts of chiropractors and multi-skilled people from out the program. Same with Cal, and you get it from Lindenwood. You get it from all these small schools that you can utilize it as a process. But I think sometimes it's not always looked at where you get a Jessica Watkins, who's a NASA person. You get, Phaidra, a lawyer out of it. How do we continue to preach the ability to use rugby as not just a game to be played, but a method of being able to create a discipline that can maybe give people another upside? Kyle, Tiana, I kind of want to bring this to you guys. I think because of the fact that you guys have a unique setup of networking through R.O.O.T.S Rugby. For you guys, from what you guys have seen, experienced, taught, like how have you felt like you could utilize the network to attach people to, things that are not just rugby?
I think it's just knowing where rugby can take you and the connections that are out there for you with it. A lot of people believe that you have to be the best rugby player to end up going anywhere. Like if I want to go play overseas, I got to be the best player. It's not like that. A lot of times you just need a simple school connection, a friend, a coach to speak up for you and can get you playing rugby at a university where you're learning a great skill, a great hobby. It can bring you to playing, like I'm from New York. I could have gone to California and been playing over there and probably had some little job, but like, I don't know, it's the different life experiences that are there for you. But people don't understand that it's really about these connections and being in the right circle sometimes. I feel with our community, we haven't known about a lot of these connections and a lot of these opportunities out here. I've seen a few players go over to Australia, and I'm like, wow, that is amazing that you were able to do that. And when they tell me how they got there, it is just straight connections. Knowing the right person at the right time got you playing over there. Sometimes you're not always the best talented player, but that's just really what it comes down to, is having the connections and taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and as for me, what I believe will kind of transition from on-field to off-field would be pretty much it comes down to the program design, how you design your program for us, for R.O.O.T.S, the way we're now going into and diving, especially during COVID right now, we have the opportunity now to sit down and think about how we're designing our program and what our program is going to do for all of our players off of the field. So from just showing up for a fitness test on time, or just by replying to an email on a timely manner, or having consequences for not replying on a timely manner, things like that, tools that you're going to take into the real world, into the job market and actually have to utilize. Those are the type of things that we plan on teaching through our program. So I believe it comes down to the program design and how you build up, either creating a pyramid or creating some type of flow chart that shows progression through rugby, but also teaches them life skills as well, so that once rugby's done and over with, they have these skills to go out and actually find a career and look for a job. And then through rugby and through R.O.O.T.S, you're building these connections, like Kyle said, in order to network and know that when you go here or there, you have a brother or sister to help you and guide you through it all.
Right on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Absolutely, Phaidra, go ahead.
I just wanted to ride on that. I founded this organization called Peak Unleashed in January of 2019. And our main concentration and focus right now is working with, and will probably forever be, incarcerated youth. So we bring rugby and yoga as tools for personal and physical development to these incarcerated youth, and really underserved youth. But you think about it, you got these kids who have taken the wrong turn, right, early in life, or maybe, as we know, are in there falsely, on false charges. But at the end of the day, they're in there, and they're in this environment, which is not a positive environment when you're in the juvenile detention center for the most part. And we're bringing them something that they can take when they leave, right? They can learn conflict resolution even within the context of touch rugby, because that's all we can do in these facilities as it stands right now. They can take, and I'm going to say yoga. They can take the elements of yoga and calm themselves. But it's for us, it's about giving them these tools to get through these times, exposing them to a sport, right, that they've never seen and never heard of before. And then the progression for us is to be able to link up with these kids when they get out, and to be able to connect them with R.O.O.T.S Rugby, right, with rugby clubs, with youth programs in whatever respective area that we'll be in. Right now, we're in the New York City tri-state area. But for these kids, geez, it's like a new start. It's a whole new world. I think when we look at ourselves, we compare ourselves to these kids, we're quite privileged, right? They have no clue about network. They have no clue about what that means. They only know the hood that they came from. And so we want to give them a different hood, right? We want to give them a different gang to affiliate with, one that's positive. And so that on-field sort of mentality, that on-field concept, then sort of transcend to this opportunity to network and be around people that can be very positive role models and mentors for them. So, yeah, the on the field stuff is so important because it helps you also with, like I said, conflict resolution, teamwork, being able to carry over into the workplace or into other settings. But I know for this demographic of kids, it will make an incredible difference if we can keep with it. So
wanted to touch on that also. I think we're in terms of rugby, I don't think we're emphasizing enough what networking can be through rugby. A lot of like Phaidra said, a lot of these kids don't understand like what networking can do for them in their careers, in their lives, and all that. And I think if we like start emphasizing what rugby can do for you in your community, if you can show you're responsible, you can show you like you're on time. There's people in your club like who probably would be looking for somebody to hire as well, and they will like say, you know what, he's a good guy on the field, he's a good guy off the field. I trust him to be in my place of work. I trust him to give him just to give him the opportunity to start working, or to give to somebody else to let him know about this guy. I think we should start like emphasizing that more to the younger community as a coach. You can say, hey, if you want to use rugby, like you can meet a lot of people who can put you in the right places at any time. My first job in college was I was working in the FDA because one of my old boys was a contractor for the FDA. So he got me that job because like I played for Maryland Exiles at the time, Potomac Exiles. I was showing good character there, and like they gave me the opportunity to start working when I was in college as well. But that's something that rugby can do.
Character.
Yeah. At that time, I was a little bit mature. I'd be honest, I was 19. It's no big deal. But no, at the same time, like these are things like if you can show a good character, like these are people who will vouch for you, and these opportunities of work, opportunities of investments, opportunities of time coaching as well. So that's something that rugby can give, and I think we should start emulating that more when we're trying to preach to, hey, come join the rugby club. We can help you find a place to work. We can help you find a mentor. We can help you find this and that. And I think that's what rugby can do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. There's a lot to be able to glean out of what you guys are were saying. Is there anyone who wants to make any additional points to that?
I'll add one thing to that, and it's not quite a counterpoint, just a caution, right? So most of us have been associated with other sports, right? So we see how, especially various athletes, approach the Black community, right? So it's very important that, yes, we are touting the benefits of rugby, where it can take you, what the people you associate with will give you access to. But it's we have to be careful about, quote unquote, selling them, right? Because really what we get out of rugby is what we make of it, and what we make of that with those around us. We really have to stress that, because a lot of the time now we're in this pioneer phase of rugby in the U.S. And a lot of people can get sold a dream really quickly, especially people that have backgrounds that diminish their autonomy to a degree, right? Where there's a bit of desperation, there's a bit of interest in seeing something new. I'll be the first to tell you, to get something you've never gotten, you got to do something you've never done. But knowing that, making sure that we are approaching them in sort of with their actual interest, and teaching them how to center their interest in that situation. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with them thinking, okay, rugby is going to be a part of my development. So how is it going to serve me going forward? And what am I going to take from this in my life? And that's where the mentors come in and say, okay, this is what you're doing. This is where you're going. This is where you can go. What might be the best thing for me in this situation? Because a lot of the times when people come from various environments like that, they haven't really taken the time to introspect and think, what is really going to be best for me going forward? That's something that a lot of us end up learning pretty late in life, actually. Like, what am I doing? What is my direction? How do I develop a direction even? What if I want to change direction? So with Phaidra's program, which is a great idea of an intervention that would change someone's direction. Those are all things we have to kind of think about when we're talking about our network right here on the Barbeque and things like Roots, where we want to make sure that we're insulating our members from that. The idea of them being serving somebody's purpose. I just need you on my team, right? Your team, you will make my team better. That's all I need you for. Whatever happens to you after that, I don't care if you sleep on a couch or outside. All that's got to go. When in reality, in this pioneer situation we're in with MLR is developing, all these teams are coming up. Young folks get approached all the time, where literally they're just going to get used and then dropped. And nothing, they're not going to take anything of value from that, except that the people that got them there got what they wanted out of them,
No.
Yeah, and to that point, I think we can be agents of change with respect to that, because it's not about your 40, it's not about your vertical leap, it's not about how many tries that you score. It's how do we create an atmosphere for you to succeed and for you to feel like you are a valued member of the program? Not everybody is going to be a side player. Not everyone is going to go on to select side opportunities. That's okay, because everybody should feel like they are welcome. They have a place where they'll be supported, where their journeys will be respected, and that they feel like they're being respected for being a whole person, not just because of some 90-meter run that they ripped off in a game. And now everybody is saying, oh, that's where your value comes from. Your value comes from being a member of a team where you are respected, where you are made to feel like you're a part of a community. And it's not about the performance on the field, because for some people, their rugby career might be 20 years. For others, it might be 4. But this should be viewed in the continuum of rugby, where there's many, many things that you can get out of being part of a rugby community. Playing is just one piece of it. And Tosan, I think you're right on the mark, where you have people who might come to a program, they're valued for their athleticism, but not for their personhood. And we need to make athletes feel like they are valued as a full person, not just the athletic dimensions that they bring to rugby or bring to the team. It's about who they are as a person and what they bring to the community.
Well, it's Koma. I hate to get controversial, but isn't that what we were used for as a people, years ago, right? Our physical ability to perform, and and not appreciate it for the numerous other gifts that we bring. So it's really awesome, I think, again, to have this space right now, to have this conversation, but to have had, and I want to go back to Roots Rugby becoming a reality, because that gives these players that space, and that gives hope to build these other teams and inspire other teams to subscribe to the values and core ethics of that program. So
I was going to add something. I saw a comment.
Hold on a second. Oh, Tosan, hold on 1 second. Tiana.
We've had players who have come on tours with us who have told us that prior to Roots, they had given up completely on not rugby, but life and their goals in life, because of how they felt and how they were treated as that, like I've mentioned before, a foster child, where as soon as you're 18, as soon as you're done doing your job for our club or for our program, we're done with you. All the I love yous, you're a great athlete, you're great, let me pat you on your back, you're everything to us. And then once you've done your job, they don't care. That's it. You're on and trying to figure out life. And now you're just hanging over here, trying to get it together, because whatever program you're a part of didn't actually guide you into that right direction. And that's what we are struggling with, and that's what we're hoping to do with Roots, and that's why Roots stands for Rugby Offering Opportunities to Succeed, and that's because we want you to succeed.
I think that's when you guys were first coming up with Roots, and I spoke with Kyle. I couldn't have been more excited because of that aspect of it, where our priorities actually suit our population. And I think that's something that's really, really important. Actually, one of my colleagues, Marcus Wood with DC Youth and coaches DeMatha, he had mentioned that the networking cell hasn't always been very strong, especially when you're going into depressed communities, because we have to be mindful of what we're competing with, right? Just like people sell us and sell various people in the rugby community various lines, that's happening on steroids with other sports. And we go into DC, you go into Baltimore, etc., where, okay, this kid's fast, I can use him as a wide out, blah, blah, blah. We'll just push you through school, get you through whatever, and hopefully get a scholarship and you go out, right? Well, that has impacted how, especially the parent culture around sports in a locale, take to these things. And we're talking generally to pretty young folks, right? Teenagers and on up that are early in their development in life. But the people that we really have to sell are the parents, right? Because they're going to be signing the permission slips. They're going to be driving the kid and pick them up and all that stuff. But the networking on its own isn't necessarily the sell. They want to know what tangible opportunity comes from their labor. It's actually very transactional in a way. And I can understand it, because many have seen that, and that's been time again what's been sold in the community, whether it's going to college through scholarship, whether it's the opportunity to go overseas, whether it's the opportunity. What are we going to get for the time that they wouldn't get if they were playing another sport that does offer those things? It's not really the kids, it's the parents in that situation. College age on out, we can talk about networking and traveling and opportunities, but in high school, we're telling the parents on where is this going to take my kid, and is it going to cost me less to educate him or her after,
No, you guys legitimately are making excellent points, because we do know it. People want to have an end game at some point in time. There has to be an end game that comes with it. Sometimes the open concept it's just not enough. And like you said, Tosan, from the high school level, parents want to know what is that tangible benefit. One question I usually was going to try and save to the end, but I think it's really important for this. It comes from Josie Zulik, where she was asking about how often do we examine the rhetoric around what it is to be a leader? And I think these play into what you guys are speaking on right now, and how important it is to be able to say your points correctly. So just kind of kicking off, Koma, working with All Navy, particularly working with men, there's a very specific method that I take that you are presenting respect. So I want to get your take on this first. What is it? How is it that you take into consideration what is being presented from those who would consider themselves leaders and the leadership around it?
I think for my case in All Navy, it's a little bit different in the sense that I served in the Navy. I was part of the rugby community while I was on active duty and in the reserve. So that distance was not as great for me to close with a team full of athletes from the United States Navy. But I think one of the things we have to recognize is that there's a lot of different ways to lead. And I think that especially as coaches, especially when you're early in your coaching career, if you're entering a space where there are not a lot of people who are like you, your leadership style may not be seen as valid because you don't demonstrate the behaviors of other folks who might be a different gender, a different ethnicity, a different background. And I think that we can have room for all different types of leadership. I think that there's certain things that might have been assumed to be leadership, like people who yell a lot. Oh, that person must be very robust. Like, well, actually, that's no. I think that there's a lot of different ways that leadership can be demonstrated, and it doesn't all have to come in one flavor. And the more that we can recognize that leadership can take different forms of communication, can take different forms of, sometimes there's a time to be sort of, this is how things need to be, and there's a time to say, okay, tell me your opinions. I'm secure enough and I'm comfortable enough to have that give and take, and not have that recognized as being weakness. It's actually trying to get a better outcome out of the organization because you're taking the time to listen to the input of the athletes and have that also recognized as leadership. And I also would want to say that not everybody has opportunities to lead because they might get overlooked. And we have to be active in giving people opportunities to lead. They might not be the loudest people. They might not be the most look at me people, but they probably have something very authentic about themselves. And we need to recognize that and nurture that and recognize that leadership doesn't look the same in all circumstances and doesn't come packaged the same way.
I was going to add to that leadership, just like most other things that we do socially, is cultural. So people from various cultures are going to approach leadership differently. What people expect from leaders coming from various cultures is also going to be different depending on where they're from. And when we going back to the coaching point, when you're coaching in these spaces, understanding what is needed of you for them to follow you, or to drive the direction of an organization, that's really what that gap that we have to figure out, that equation, that's leadership. And I boiled it down for now that I'm working with younger players, I'm working with high school players and more in a leadership development capacity. I try to position leadership as service. So you are serving the team. That's leadership is a service. It is serving the club, it's serving the team, it's serving your mates. That's what you're doing. And in that, you're increasing the value of the things that you were added into. And people see that. There's a vulnerability with that allows them to connect with you in those situations, that type of thing. Now, what's kind of challenging is that I've seen with young folks, vulnerability tends to speak. It tends to, what's the word? It has a negative connotation, especially with young men, right? So teaching them that manner of vulnerability is actually the path to trust and leadership through service and et cetera, versus simply being the most visible, loud, active, but not necessarily productive person on in the group or on the pitch or et cetera. So in the end, it may be about what do you want in your club or your program? What is your culture? You define it. And part of that is going to define what leadership is going to be.
No, that's real. Anyone else want to add anything on with that?
I kind of want to add something to that, but in my thought, I think it's very controversial to
bring the controversy, my friend. Bring the controversy.
At the same time, we have to realize there's not a lot of African Americans on a lot of teams that would be looked at as leaders, because the way we express our emotions can be too much towards other people, and that's not what a team wants. Some teams want a captain who's calm and composed at all times, so their team can look after them. and some like there are some people who are calm and collected at all times, but that are African Americans. But and again, like we still have to come to a realization that some coaches still just don't want to put that minority as a leader of the team at the time, like just for again some of those typecasted thoughts or other subconscious thoughts as well. But like I think that's something that we have to overcome in a certain way. And I think we're coming to that pretty close. I think South Africa was a good example of like having a new like black leader as a coach. I mean, not a coach, as a captain in the team. And now like probably more teams will like in America will probably emulate that as well. I think that's something that's coming pretty soon.
No, I think that's well put, and it actually perfectly well lined up with what my next question that I had, and it comes with women in rugby, and I think numbers plays a huge part, especially when it comes with Black women. As we continue to expand and especially in dealing with HBCUs, there is the constant struggle of trying to bring more and more Black women, as it seems from at least the HBCUs or from the outside, into the sport itself. We have some really skilled and accomplished women here that know the experience as well as anybody. And I ask, what are some of the things that you guys have felt that has either made it easier to come in, at the same time, it makes it a touch bit difficult to be able to be as completely embracing into the rugby sport? Tiana, I kind of want to start with you on this one.
Well, as soon as you said what makes it easy to come in is coming to a new team and being Black and knowing that you're going to get that wing spot for sure. Like, that is what it is. That's what makes it easy. Is no,
can't say I've had that problem.
That's all me. That's what makes it easy.
Wait, you show up and what? There's like an 11 and a 14 that are pressed to start.
Sorry.
Yep.
Which one of you two is faster? Okay, your wing. Okay, got it. Hey, you two race. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So what makes it difficult is feeling accepted and feeling like you're going to be heard, especially when there are moments where you are expressing that you want to, try a new position out or learn how to kick or anything other than being really fast or being very strong, and then get shut down or say, hey, we'll think about it type of thing, So just for my experience is being pushed to the side and saying that your time will come. Well, my time, it's been a while. I haven't gotten that chance yet. And right now is the reason why with Roots, I want to make sure that the women that are a part of Roots have that opportunity and have the opportunity to go out there and learn to be a kicker, to go out there and want to play scrum half, and not say, hey, you're on the wing, you're going to just be a prop just for these tournaments and then that's it, or given a slight opportunity. I don't want to share it yet, or maybe I will. I'll wait till after. But I did write this poem for the work that really talks about my entire experience, and it goes kind of deep. So I'll let everyone else kind of fill in, and then I'll share that. But I think it's important for people to understand what a Black female player feels like when coming to a new club that's not predominantly Black, which are most of the clubs in the United States. So just being that one or two off player on a club level team, it makes it very difficult to fit in.
Yeah, and it speaks to the point that although women in sports and girls in sports has increased, the folks that are still at the bottom of the barrel are black girls, and so you don't have a lot. You see a big dropout rate when these girls start to reach middle school and high school. Some of it is because they have to take care of things at home. They don't have, and this is sports in general, right? So, a lot of these folks that are in college, women that are in college, that we are thinking, oh, how can we bring into our sport, you know, they were disenfranchised from playing sports for many reasons. Like that, they're either at home taking care of their younger siblings, or, you know, their parents, you know, won't let them, or, you know, they feel like there's a stigma with playing sports. It's a really difficult time, right, for young girls. And so it's really, if we really have to reach out, and we really have to serve in sort of a mentoring, in a mentoring capacity, and really take care of them, take them under our wing, bring them in, you know, all the things that we should do with all folks. But I think you have to go a bit of an extra, take that extra mile, especially with women of color, because, you know, I think there's a stigma around playing, you know, sports that are perceived as men's sports. And I feel like that's probably a bit more, I guess that's prevalent with any women, but I think it's maybe a bit more in the Black community. And someone may completely disagree with me on that, but I know for me, growing up, and I didn't, you know, I was a kid that I love what I love, and like I'm a kid now that I love what I love, I do what I want. But I still have feelings of discomfort in certain situations, and when I don't feel accepted, when I don't, you know, when I feel excluded, you know, that's just human nature to feel some rejection. So I think really going that extra mile to you know, for me as a Black woman, and I'm not playing in the sport anymore, but to go that extra mile, right? To put the arm around, you know, these young folks and bring them in and just nurture them. I think it's so important to keep them engaged.
I think that's.
And I definitely would like to add to that. You know, we always talk about, it's sort of the running joke of somebody shows up and they're Black, and it's like, I've got 2 jerseys, 11 or 14. Which one do you want? Take chances, coaches. You know, if somebody comes up to you and says, "I'd like to learn how to be a fly half," teach them how to be a fly half. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Gee, I think that scrum half might be really cool," then help them learn that position, because you're enhancing their rugby knowledge and understanding of the game, but you're also listening to them and giving them the opportunity to try something they've never done before. And perhaps you might be surprised that this person who you might have pigeonholed in your head as an 11 or a 14 is an absolutely brilliant 10, but they've never had a chance to be able to do it. So when you see your little brain sort of making that heuristic that says, "Oh, I think this person is just check it, take a deep breath, and look at the athlete as a whole person with a set of skills versus, you know what, I think that 11 or 14 might suit that player," and really challenge yourself to say, okay, if I'm going to create a good rugby player, because that's what we should all be doing, especially at the youth level, we're creating good rugby players with good rugby skills. We shouldn't be pigeonholing them so early. We should be giving them the chance to express themselves and give them the opportunity to see the game from various different places. Now, that doesn't mean that you grab the little kid and you throw him into the front row and you say, "Good luck." But you might give that kid an opportunity who says, "Hey, I'd love to see what loosehead is like." And you're like, "God bless you. And we'll give you an opportunity to try it out in a controlled environment. And hey, maybe they never go back to the front row, but they've at least experienced that, and it makes them a much more knowledgeable rugby player, because now they have an understanding that they wouldn't have had they not had the opportunity to try something new." So I would just urge everybody out there, captains, selectors, coaches, like, think a little harder about the athlete, not sticking them into a jersey because your shortcut tells you to do that.
I want to add on that as well. And Tosan, you could probably like add to this. Like my early times at the Maryland Exiles, Potomac Exiles, I was playing wing, would try to get reps at 9. And I was like told, "Nah, we don't need you as 9. Our 9s would get hurt." And all of a sudden, like, "After you playing 9, like I never got to practice this." So like he's thrown into the fire. There's a bunch of times where I'm practicing times I'm trying to practice new positions, like, "Nah, don't do it. Don't worry about it. Just stick to wing." Like, how am I supposed to like get the practice of the position if you're not going to let me get the practice of the position? I don't want to play wing all my life. I'm 26 years old, still trying to play like 13 and 12. And I played in high school, but like I'm still trying to play that because I've been typecasted as a wing the whole time. Like that's something like I know a lot of Black players who are like who have speed can understand and can probably empathize with, like, oh, this sucks. I want to practice something else. I just want to practice wing the whole time. I mean, I could practice 12 and understand the lines of a wing like easier if I'm practicing 12. I would know what to run because I can look at it from a 13 standpoint. Like, oh, I want you to run here. So if you're running there, like, that's something that I wish more coaches would like understand. It's like, don't let your wings practice so much wing, let them practice something else. Because honestly, like, in the lower level, anybody can play wing to get to the high level. That's when, like, it's a different game. But it's hard to understand that different game if you haven't played 12 fullback, 13, 9. Like, international players, like, who play wing can play 10, can play fullback. But the problem is you're just playing wing at the time because that's where they can get the opportunity to play for New Zealand, next level New Zealand level or international level. But, like, in their clubs, they're playing 10 or fullback the whole time.
I'm about to say, part of that is lazy coaching. And that's just being completely honest, right? What ends up happening is, we've all fallen into this at some point if we've coached, right? You have 2 practice days and you have a match on Saturday, or 3 practice days and a match on Saturday. So you're thinking, what is my shortest line to achieving the goal of winning a match if it's a competitive match, or a friendly, then it's development. But I think it's very easy as coaches to fall into ruts of seeing people that this is how they benefit me in the moment, right? Or they even benefit the team in the moment, right? You want your speed outside, so you put them outside. But like Aki, you remember playing with Trevor.
Trevor was my idol, still is.
You know, Trevor was lights out fast, and also Ishmael, right? Both played 10. Both were faster than any wing that we played against, but they both also played 10 and fullback. People seeing that can help people understand, hey, you know what? There's different ways to take different athletes and put them in different positions. But that isn't the player's fault. That's the coach's fault for not having the level of imagination to take skills, abilities, and take a body and say, I can use these in a variety of different ways. This person has these desires. So how do I match those abilities and those desires and get them in a position to do what they want to do within reason? So if somebody wants to play 12, well, the skills of a 12 are the following. This is how you get to play 12. And then commit to putting them on the path to be able to do that. They want to play 10. These are what 10s have to do. And I think what happens is coaches don't really have a lot of positional coaching confidence at this level to say, I can train you to be what you want to be. So what ends up happening is you're going to the wing because you're fast and I don't know what else to do with you. Or my favorite one, you have bad hands. You're going to the wing. That's what I'm going to do with you, instead of working on passing and catching and tracking a ball and those type of things with them. It's just not very imaginative. It's very flat. And part of that is because coaching has just become professional in American rugby very recently. It's usually just been volunteer and people holding everything together until game day and then putting a team on the field and yelling at people, you know?
No.
I think the other piece of that is clearly articulating that, because it can also be players who might be upset that why are you putting so-and-so at 12? Well, it's got to be part of a longer strategy where it's not about winning every single game. It's about developing as a team so you all arrive at the same destination. And hopefully you have buy-in from the players and from the selection committees and the leadership on that level. Because if you're on one sort of path and the team is another path, that decision to take a chance on someone may be a different conversation to have if everyone's not bought in on the vision of where the team should be going and how it should be developing.
No. I love it. Well, I want to kind of put a pin on this subject here because we don't have a lot of time remaining. And I really wanted to get to this side. I see you wanted to put one more input in. But we've had some great points on this, no doubt. The last thing I wanted to get us to talk about before we go our separate ways was when it comes to HBCUs. Obviously, we're doing this through an HBCU focused page, and I have obviously the personal interest. We're getting to this point in time whenever I think a long time ago HBCUs the explanation on them was not always very great. I think it was very hidden, but I think over the last, I want to say 3 to 5 years, and definitely in the last year, you're starting to see a much greater rise of HBCU interest. For those who are working with high schoolers and even get people that are in college, and those who are alumni or might have sources otherwise, what are some of the things that you guys feel that can be implemented when it comes to an HBCU in terms of whether it is to convince kids to be able to go there more or to be able to go there, or what it is to bring people into the HBCU facility and have them understand what it is to be part of the culture? Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, Roots couple. Either one, I'd love for you, because again, you guys have actually had multiple people from Morehouse to be able to be part of the Roots team. So and have subsequently played with at the HBCU Rugby Classic. So from your guys' perspective, from maybe conversations that you've had or heard, what do you think are some of the things that can be brought from both ends, both player ends and outside?
Okay, all right. In my opinion, just first thing, getting people attracted to the HBCUs. Just I think more of these HBCUs need to hear about rugby programs. Besides, we have Morehouse and Prairie View right now, but they need to see.
And North Carolina A&T, I got to throw them in there as well.
Okay, all right, moving up. There we go. We need more and more. Like I was with Morgan State when they first started doing lacrosse. When they were the first HBCU program to have whole black lacrosse team, and the success just kept building. It wasn't really about winning, but more so what the players were learning on and off the field, and showing their community that we can do something more, and then being those role models to those high school students, those black high school students that are playing lacrosse on predominantly white teams. But after that, what are they going to do? They still may want to go to HBCU. They still may want to play lacrosse, but those opportunities aren't out there. And then on the other hand, the HBCUs can just learn a lot from rugby. Like, all these people on this chat are on this because we love rugby. And then on top of that, we love humanity and trying to figure out how to understand each other. So I believe that there is so much that rugby can offer the black community as well as the black community offering to rugby. So I think the hands go both ways. But
I believe that that HBCUs and rugby share similar values and goals when it comes to discipline, when it comes to solidarity, and such. And so I think we share all of the same values there, and it's very important to take those values and let these universities also understand what rugby can do for their universities and can do for the growth of rugby and for their colleges and universities as well. Just like how Morehouse, how they didn't have a rugby program and had to reach out, to a coach off-site to kind of come and bring rugby to Morehouse, and that it's still kind of building, and that's what we need to be able to show, that these programs can go into the HBCUs and be successful for the athletes as well. And so once they are up there and successful, I think it would be more attractive for these young students to be driven into these colleges to play rugby.
Phaidra, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, from the top, bottom, this is your bread and butter here. Please.
No, it's all good. I had this conversation. I was at an awards event at Alabama State just back in September, and it was very encouraging of the college or university establishing a rugby program, right? I think that, based on obviously the core values of the sport, right? Inclusion, diversity, all of these things, camaraderie, you name it, right? But I think most importantly, inclusion. There's an opportunity for HBCUs to bring this in, but bring it in for not only men, bring it in for women, right? I think for the last question, I answered this partially. I was confused, but I think it's important, that teams and organizations like R.O.O.T.S Rugby, who's a shining example of having a men's and women's program, can start to influence, these players to go to these colleges and to, you know, I don't know if I say petition for it, but maybe even start programs. I think it's so important. I think, you know, any sport, I think on any campus, right? When you think about it, or you think about all sports on all campuses, the values of rugby are always different, right? It's a unique breed, and you know, this could be perceived as a sort of fraternity sorority, the new fraternity and sorority on a HBCU, right? A way that it could break down those gender lines, and, you know, create sort of an athletic, a sports oriented sorority or fraternity. But I think, number one, if you don't have it on the campus, we've got to make a point to start establishing this. And maybe it's something that some of the already established programs, right, can take the lead on, like the Morehouses, the Prairie Views, to reach out to the athletic departments of these other colleges. And, you know, maybe it's something that the rugby community actually has to do. Maybe it's something that USA Rugby should take the lead on, to be honest with you. Let's not, you know, let's actually go there. You want to talk about an initiative around diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in this moment in time. There could be nothing greater than, you know, and it shouldn't necessarily have to be initiated by me, because I'm the only Black person on the board of directors. That's not where it starts, right? It starts with other people taking the lead, right, or co-leading, and you know, creating a pathway, right? How many, like, you think about the collegiate pathway at the HP level, have we ever thought about, you know, helping to establish programs on some of these Black college campuses, right? That's a great way to show that you are bought in to, again, DEI. And so, right, absolutely. You know, and if you want to go a step further, I mean, we can talk about kids that don't go to college, right? And I mentioned this last night on another forum. But the kids that don't go to college, the kids that get disenfranchised, those kids that are, you know, were Olympic trialists, right? That didn't make the team, and now they're sitting at home, you know, feeling really bad for themselves. Those are the people that you want as your crossover athletes. Those are the kids, but there's no one out there making contact. There's not even a remote thought. But now that I've put it out there 2 nights in a row, we need to act on that. And again, it doesn't need to necessarily be me, you, or you. The community knows. And so now that's something that we take hold of and make good of. But, you know, I think this is a responsibility that's far bigger than just the people on this call. And really it's far bigger than putting it on the shoulders of the HBCUs.
Right. Well, and to piggyback exactly on your last sentence, so that's where governance as a service plays its role, right? How do you remove barriers to things? How do you help organizations and programs surpass barriers that are preventing them from achieving the mission you're setting out, right? So if somebody on a USA Rugby or any governance, NSCRO or whoever, says in their strategic plan, we want to have 10 HBCU varsity men's and women's programs by year 2030, then now that gives you something to put resources behind to go and say, okay, how do we go about getting this done? We have this vision, and now it's on the map, and now you start networking and meeting with, you know, whether it's athletic departments, whether it's presidents, whether it's benefactors or folks that make donations to help create these sustainable programs. Because especially for women and Black women, because the demographics at HBCUs are heavily skewed towards women. If you build that, it's going to create a very strong pull for a lot of those athletes there. It's something new. It's something interesting. It kind of serves the transactional thing I was talking about earlier for a lot of the folks that come from different economically depressed areas. It brings them there, and it puts their HBCU brand in places that it wouldn't have been before. Can you imagine like Howard University having a table or a banner at Craven Week in South Africa? Like these type of things, getting people to think bigger than simply just using athletes to win things, but your presence, sending Morgan State over to Safari Sevens over in Kenya. Like these are things that that get people to open wallets for possibility's sake. Because they're like, wow, now my student body is exposed to something that they won't get anywhere else, not any other HBCU, and honestly, maybe not even the state school or anything else that I have access to. And it can be men, it can be women. With Title IX, there's the balance aspect, which a lot of HBCUs are completely upside down on their balance thing. That would help them completely fix that. Having a varsity sevens and the varsity sevens and 15 side. And let's be honest, rugby is literally the cheapest sport to execute out of any sport you walk into an athletic department's office. If you just pay coaches, pay for travel, pay for equipment, you'll be in the black, perpetually, and it's paying for full travel. Because the overwhelming majority of people that are playing varsity rugby in college are paying tuition in addition to playing varsity rugby in college. That's what's going on right now. So there's definitely a demand. They can make there's something that can buffer the financial blow. All we need is somebody to get people in the room that would say, okay, we're going to help you remove the barriers that are in place from you getting this done. And then you have a program. And then it's up to them to sustain it. We give people, the community gives them support to keep it going, the development work, all that fun stuff. It's something I've been trying probably a better part of 10 years. I think I fired off an email every quarter to Howard since I think 2008 or something like that. But I'm going to keep going, keep trying until it works, until it hits the right ear and all these possibilities. Because even there's not a small number of black people playing rugby anymore. If you think about it, like Gift, I showed you the picture of a team I took to Raleigh. When I come to the University of Maryland, this is University of Maryland. They have a pretty big black middle class in PG County and Montgomery County. So a lot of people that are upwardly mobile in terms of education opportunity. At one point, I had 12 black women on my team. Like, this is not something that, now when we went some places, people were like looking like, whoa, like, where did all you come from? But that's something that it can float. Because then you say, okay, there's teams with 2 and 3 and 4 in other places, or 1 and 2 in a bunch of other places. All of a sudden now, they go up and say, okay, HBCU rugby is a thing. I can go to Hampton, I can go to Howard, I can go to A&T, I can go to Morehouse, I can go, hey, Morehouse got one, why not Spelman? Like, all these things are the level of possibility that it's not as big of a hurdle as many people think it could be. We just got to
it's got to be sustainable. So
Yep.
when that first generation disappears, it doesn't collapse.
Yep.
So it's about knowledge transfer, scaffolding, development, making sure that there is you talk about the ecosystem, about making sure that there are blueprints and opportunities and support so that coach, when he or she feels like they need someone to talk to, they have someone to talk to. They ask a question about, should I do this or should I do that? Should I do a 1-3-3-1 or a 2-4-2? Whether it's how do I structure a practice, give them the scaffolding so that when that first generation goes away, the program doesn't vaporize.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things when I went to Connacht, an amazing 2 weeks of my life in beautiful Ireland, the amount of scaffolding that the province had in development and the approach that they had from like minis rugby all the way through the opportunity to play for Connacht was standardized. It was systematized. You can download toolkits. You can get practice plans. And the emphasis is on make sure the kids have fun until it's such time to determine whether or not someone will go to the next level. But at the little ones level, it's about, are you having fun with the rugby ball? Okay, Full stop, we're good. But being able to have a repository of knowledge and community officers that will go out to practices. I wound up going out to a practice about an hour away from Galway in the sideways rain. And that was the commitment of Connacht's community development officers going out there so they could watch practices. They could see how coaches coached. The coaches could ask questions. They have somebody who's right there with them so that coach doesn't feel like they're all by themselves. So we've got to, if we're going to do this right, then we also have to make sure sustainability is built in from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Guys, great points being made. There's so much we can go into this, and there's so much information gleaned out. I hope everyone who was able to listen to, unfortunately, we're kind of run low on time, but I want to take the time to thank everybody who's part of this panel. Thank you guys for being able to come on. This was great. This was better than I could have even imagined. Thank you guys, everyone who has been engaging and participating and listening in on the conversation. Your points have been seen and made, and I think we have something that can start from here and creates a moment. If you guys can take a moment, please let us know where we can find you. Koma, if you can start first, where they can find you, they can talk with you guys.
Sure. I'm learning the Instagram. So I am Gandy Coach on Instagram. I'm Gandy Coach on Twitter. And you can hit me up on Facebook, or I'm kbgandy@gmail.com.
Roots, please.
We're Roots Rugby family everywhere and anywhere.
Roots Rugby was already taken.
Roots Rugby family on IG, right? And Facebook as well. We also have a website.
RootsRugbyFamily.com. Check it out. And we also have a store on Paladin under Roots Rugby. So if you want to get some Roots Rugby gear.
Open till July 5th. And we are also just wondering when the next barbecue is.
Well, we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do soon. Aki, please let us know. Where can they find you? Or
my Instagram is Axilla, AKZILOA TV. Facebook, Akinola Raymond. Twitter, Axilla TV. TikTok, Aki_SJ.
Phaidra. Muted.
Yes.
Phaidra, you're muted.
Phaidra, wait, Phaidra, you were muted the entire time.
No matter. Did you see that play?
You can find me behind this plate, I said.
Right?
Hey, if nobody's ever been cooked for by Phaidra Knight, I'm telling you,
But if we're talking about
a rugby player, like, moves off the chain every time.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. I got a second calling. But hey, if you want to find me on in the virtual world, you can find me on Instagram at Phaidra, Phaidra Knight. Same on Facebook and same on Twitter. You see my name, just spell it, and you'll find me.
Perfect. Tosan.
All right. Hey, Viral Rugby. ViralRugby.com. Viral Rugby on Twitter. Viral Rugby on Instagram. Always out there. Feel free to send a message, and I'm happy to help anybody who's going to help advance rugby in the Black community. That's me.
Awesome. And guys, you guys please continue to follow in HBCU Rugby Classic. We do it every single year. It's been getting better and better each time. All these people here are either coming or have been to the HBCU Rugby Classic in some way, shape, or form. And you guys can always get HBCU Rugby Classic merch at rugbyoutletmall.com. And we're going to work on getting some roots in because I feel like Paladin is taking a little too much. But yeah, look, we do what we got to do. We do what we do. But guys, thank you again for being on. Thank you for taking the time. We'll see you next time. And don't worry, we'll let you know the next time that you're invited to the barbecue. Have a great night.